Canada's next federal election will take place on April 28th, just 1 week after Easter. This is an opportunity for Canadians to ensure that our country is guided by leaders who have the good of all in mind, including the unborn, the elderly, young people, families, as well as workers, farmers, veterans, business owners, first responders, the marginalized, really everyone. And as Catholics, we are called, at the very least, to go and vote and do so wisely, after having considered all relevant issues, the platforms of each of the candidates and parties, and all relevant church teachings. Some people are also called to do more, volunteering at polling stations or helping with other efforts to get out the vote, engaging personally with candidates and party officials, helping to spread good ideas and encourage others to vote properly, or in some cases, volunteering to assist candidates or parties, or even putting yourselves forward as candidates. All this requires some effort, but most importantly, no matter how we get involved, we're called to do all these things prayerfully. That's why I like the slogan, read, pray, vote. Do your research, pray about it, and then get out to vote. First Holy Week, then Easter, and then vote. I'm Deacon Pedro, and this is the Salt and Light Hour. Hello and welcome to an all-new Salt and Light Hour. I'm Deacon Pedro, and sitting here with me is Jermaine Bagnall. Welcome back to the Salt and Light Hour.
Always a pleasure to be back, as particularly as we are in the midst of our Lenten season.
I was going to ask you, because I think the last time we spoke, we were just beginning Lent or just about to begin Lent. So how's it going?
So far so good. I'm trying to do my best to do the sorrowful mysteries every day. I've missed a couple times.
I like that.
And the one that's very difficult for me, I'm fasting. So what I'm trying to do with the fast is just breakfast, just dinner, like no snacks, that sort of thing. Because for some people, they're like, well, 2 meals, that's no problem. I am a notorious snacker.
So yeah, that's good. So no snacks. That's good. Yeah, I'm one of those people that says 2 meals, that's no problem, but I don't eat very much. You're a big guy, so and by big I don't mean I mean tall. People who don't know Jermaine, how tall are you? So it's like 8 feet tall.
I'm 6'7", and although I have a lean build, I eat a lot of food.
Yes. Okay. So you can do 2 meals, no snacking. But I like the idea of praying the sorrowful mysteries every day. That's I think you're the first person I hear that will do something like that. Good Lenten practice. Maybe next year I'll take that. I'm doing the Rosary in a Year podcast.
Oh,
so I'm doing it for the whole year, obviously, but I started during Lent, so it has become part of, because it's really about not so much about the Rosary as it is about just habits of prayer. So it's been very good to have that discipline to do it every day and incorporate some of those habits that Father Mark Mary is talking about. So good praying during Lent.
Yeah, that's great.
Praying more during Lent. It's a good thing. Jermaine, today Billy is going to come back on the program. He has a question about being godparents. Actually, he told me that it was a question about fathers. And I think he's just trying to be mysterious, because I know that it has to do with baptism and confirmation. So I'm sure that it's a question about being godfathers or godparents. So that's Church for Dummies in about 5 minutes if people want to learn anything about what it means to be a godparent. And then Jermaine, you are back with 2 books.
Two books. One features a saint, and another is in line with, not only is it the Lenten season, it is also March Madness.
Oh, okay. Talking about sports.
A little bit of hoops to go with to go with the book review.
Okay, good. So lessons in basketball and how to be a saint with Jermaine Bagnall. 2 most important things in life: the universal call to holiness and the universal call to hoops. So that's in about 15 minutes. Book ends with Jermaine, and then Jermaine in the second half hour, we're going to be learning all about what happens when a pope dies or when a pope steps down. This was a conversation that, the pope spent over a month in the hospital.
It was that long?
Yeah, it was. And not that we think that he's dying, because he's not, but it's always a very interesting conversation. A good friend of mine who is a Vatican journalist, Javier Martinez Brocal, has just written a book called Conclave, but it's not Conclave the movie.
Oh,
it's
okay,
actually
good.
No, it's rules for and it's not even just rules for electing the Pope. This book is a great kind of resource for anybody that wants to find out about the church. What is the Pope? What is a cardinal? What do cardinals do? It explains all the symbolism, the a little bit even history of the popes that have resigned. So it's a really good book, and it's all questions and answers. So we're going to be speaking with Javier Martinez Brocal in our second half hour about. We're going to focus mainly on what happens when a pope dies or when a pope steps down.
I definitely am going to have to read that book, and also that his name is incredible.
Javier Martinez Brocal. Yes, good Spanish name. So that's in about 25 minutes. You can stick around and listen to that conversation. And yeah, it's a great book, great resource to have. And then in the second half hour, Jermaine, we're going to reconnect with a singer-songwriter. Her name is Kate Curran. She was first on this program in 2022. She's an Irish singer-songwriter who's been living in the United States now in Atlanta. But she's been working, since I've known her, on recording new and contemporary versions of traditional hymns. So all these traditional hymns, written by, St. Thomas Aquinas, and she's been re-recording with a more contemporary feel. And she was doing volumes, like three songs per volume, and now she's just finished the fourth volume. So 12 songs have been recorded, and they're really super interesting and really well done. Kind of really giving new life. Not that they were dead, but new life to these hymns that we might think that just, you can only sing in church with the organ. And she's got lots of instruments, and she plays the trumpet, and it's a really, really good arrangement. So we're going to be speaking with Kate Curran in about 35 minutes and listen to some of her music throughout the show. If people are not going to be around, remember that you can listen to our program on our website, slmedia.org. You can also listen to the Salt and Light Hour on the Salt and Light Plus app, and you can subscribe to the podcast edition of the Salt and Light Hour anywhere you get your podcasts. So why don't we start with a song? Here is one of those traditional hymns, Holy God, We Praise Thy Name, by Kate Curran from her new volume, Volume 4.
Holy God, we praise thy name. Lord of all, we bow before thee. All on earth thy scepter claim. All in heaven above adore thee. Infinite thy vast domain. Everlasting is thy reign. Infinite thy vast domain. Everlasting is thy reign.
We're listening to Kate Curran with Holy God, We Praise Thy Name from her Volume 4 collection. We're going to be speaking with Kate Curran in about 35 minutes, so stay tuned. Now it's time for
Church for Dummies.
with Billy Chan, who has a question about fathers, you said?
Yes, about father. I have a lot of godchildren. I have a lot of them, and I am actually the godfather. So it's about me. Okay, it's about me. Now the question is this. It's not really about me, but I'm asking it on behalf of a lot of different godparents.
Yes.
Being a godparent is a kind of I would say there is a lot of responsibility. Okay, to be a godparent, supposed to be.
Yes.
But this is another topic, another big topic. We should talk about it later on. But the thing is this, when the question is this, when your goddaughters or your godson is going to get baptized or confirmation or any other sacramental celebration.
Yeah.
What should you do when you go there? So do you need to get a gift to your god kids, or if they should give you a gift?
Oh, I like that idea.
So what do you say? Do you say congratulations? Do you say thanks God? Things like that. So let's clear this up.
Okay. So can I just say that even though you're right, that there's a lot of responsibilities to being a godparent or a confirmation sponsor, I actually am going to say that there aren't that many responsibilities. that there's really just one main responsibility, which is to pray for and to help guide that child into a life of faith. And you can do that in any way you want. It depends how much or how little you're involved in that child's life. So that's really the only responsibility. Now, let's say you have a godchild from baptism, and that godchild is making her first communion. Absolutely, you should go as a godparent. You should participate in all those celebrations. But I would say any other celebrations, even that child's birthdays, and Christmas. You should keep that child in mind. You should keep in touch with them. And if it is part of your culture or your personal tradition, family tradition, to give gifts, I'd say that that's appropriate. I'm not a big gift giver.
You are a hug giver. I know.
But it's because to me, that's not, I'll give books. I love giving books, but not everybody likes to receive books.
Yeah.
So that might not be the best thing. With my godchildren, it really depends on also how old they are. I try to make a point of not giving a gift every time, so that you're not creating an expectation that it's like, oh, I'm going to get a gift. I'd rather be more present in their lives. If they're adults and they're in another, I might keep in touch with them. Try to have that sort of relationship. If I'm visiting them, I might take them out for lunch or something, or dinner. So that's my preference. But again, there's no book that says you have to give gifts, or you have to. There's not even, I would say that not even a suggestion that gift has to be a religious gift. A lot of times you think, oh, it's a first communion, so I have to go to the Catholic store and buy a little statue of Mary, or I have to buy a little, a crucifix or a rosary. Like if you give them a rosary every time, it's like, how many rosaries do you need? I think it's okay to give a rosary or a little statue or a medal, but if you find a book that's a devotional or a story, I mean, I don't think it really matters. Growing up, I would get gifts from my godparents, and they would be anything. It'd be like a shirt. Here's a shirt, or whatever. So I don't think it really matters. I think it's more important that you are involved in the life of your godchild, or your confirmation, the child that you sponsored for confirmation. Does that help? Is that what you're asking?
That's good. So what do you say to them? So for example, when they get their confirmation, do you say congratulations? Do you say?
Yeah, you can say congratulations. You can. I think that because as a godparent, or confirmation sponsor, your role is to guide that child into a life of faith. Or I think you should be able to be comfortable to talk to that child about faith.
Yeah.
So if you can't say God bless you, or if you can't but get a card that says, may God be with you, or write something, a prayer or something, then maybe you should think twice about what your role as a godparent is. So offering a prayer or a scripture passage, I think all those things are appropriate. I will, if I'm buying a card, I will always buy a religious card. It's not going to be just a Hallmark card that says happy confirmation. It'll say, may the Lord enlighten the eyes of your heart, that you will come to know the hope to which you're called, or something like that.
Okay, so this is another question about an ordinary friend that always asks me like that. Some of them are not even Catholic, and some of their friends basically asking them to witness a baptism of their son, or of what's their role? What should they do? And they were just lost.
They're and I hate to say this, but if they're not Catholic, they actually do not have any responsibilities in that child's life. When you're baptized, you need at least one godparent. You can have as many as two, one male, one female. But you only need one. But then you can have 15 witnesses, and that's usually reserved. That's something that the church created so that you could include people who are not Catholic, because for some families, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
But that witness is just there. I mean, they're not really even witnessing anything. They're just there. I think it's more of a gesture to include someone that might be meaningful in your life, a cousin or a family friend that's not Catholic, but really that person does not have any responsibility. And I mean, they can offer something religious if they're Christian and not Catholic, but they don't feel that they shouldn't feel that they have to.
Okay, so they can still go. It's a celebration, right? This is just like a party, right? But in a Catholic manner, in a church, and to celebrate with them, just walk with them. Did I say right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that as parents, if you invite someone who is not Catholic to be a witness at a baptism, they can't be sponsored for confirmation, but they can be witnesses for a non-Catholic witness or a Christian witness, I think. For baptism, you should explain to them what it means, what it is. I mean, they have to, I don't know if they have to, as witnesses, go to the sacramental prep. Godparents do have to go, so that they at least understand what's happening and don't feel excluded with all the sitting and standing and kneeling and other things, other Catholic things that might be happening.
Wow. Okay. So it's just casual. You just go, be with them and celebrate. That's it.
Yes, and it's an opportunity to evangelize to them as well.
Thank you, Deacon Pedro.
You're very welcome, Billy Chan. Billy Chan is a youth minister and a web builder. You can follow him at bjoechan.
Hi, I'm Will Hickel with Novum Records, and you're listening to the Salt and Light Hour with Deacon Pedro.
You can watch Salt and Light Television and listen to the Salt and Light Hour on our streaming platform, SL+. Find out how to subscribe at slmedia.org. Now it's time for Bookends with Jermaine Bagnall.
It's good to be back, and I've brought some books.
You brought some books. Okay, so you said a book about a saint and a book about hoops.
And a book about hoops, yes.
Okay, whoa.
Okay. I know. Will they link together? They're both about Catholics, so I don't think there's a direct line.
Okay.
But we'll start with the kids' book. This is the tale of the book is called Joan of Arc. It's by Josephine Poole and illustrated by Angela Barrett. It's a Magnificat Ignatius publication. So as the title lets you know, it's the story of Joan of Arc, and it goes into the details of her hearing heavenly voices and her call to action, and just basically her journey of becoming the Joan of Arc that we know. One of the things that really stood out right away to me was the art. I know I always mention the art in these children's book, but this one, it was just so beautiful. All of the images sort of remind me of like those medieval tapestries that would be on the wall. And they all have that sort of feel. And I looked a little bit, I looked up the artist, Angela Barrett, and she has a bit of this mixed style where she uses watercolor, this thing called gouache, colored pencils, and ink. So it looks like she kind of blended all this together. So there's just like large tapestry sort of images, and it's a larger size book. So when you open it, there was at least one page always full spread. Beautiful. And sometimes it would split between one page and like a column on the other to kind of tell the story.
Nice.
And they did that one really was apparent when Joan of Arc had approached the castle of the English to talk to them, and it just looked like these two panels of a painting. It's just absolutely
beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So it's something where parents, when you're reading it to your kids, so this is, it's aimed at ages 7 and up. So this is something that could be shared with parents and children. But it really gives a great message. Like I personally really like the emphasis that was placed on Joan's age. So children realize that at a young age that they can do big things, they can do great things, and emphasize the importance of listening to God's voice, both in what we need to do and in what we should not do.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost kind of builds in that sense of discernment. And something that was also really important was kind of what she said, the final message that the voice gave her, which is to take all in good part, do not complain over thy martyrdom, by it thou shalt come at last to the kingdom of paradise. So I think that was a really interesting emphasis that the author put there, because there's that emphasis of what martyrdom means in the Christian tradition, which is as defined by Pope Benedict XIV. Mm-hmm. It's the voluntary enduring or tolerating of death on account of the faith of Christ or another act of virtue in reference to God. So there's like kind of all these lessons that kind of come together in this book, and just with this exquisite art. I know I keep saying that, but the art is beautiful.
Yeah, you always talk about the art, and I find that fascinating. But that is an important point, especially for parents. If you want to get a nice book for your children, the art is important. Absolutely. So you would say this is for older children?
Slightly older children, but parents know their children best, and they can decide how early they want to introduce the story. Because we all know at the end, Joan is burnt at the stake. Yes. They don't show that graphically, but they do let you know that this is where it goes. So parents kind of, as the book is teaching discernment, parents discern when to read this for their kiddos. Okay,
good. So Joan of Arc. All right, good. Then a book about basketball.
Basketball for those hoop heads who are in the midst of March Madness. If they've participated and their bracket is still going, God bless you. So this book is part memoir, part inspiration, and part how to build a successful team and life. And the author is Porter Moser. At the time of the writing of the book, he was the head coach of Loyola University Chicago. So he was heading up the basketball program. He was there for 10 years, and it talks about his successes and really emphasizing not just like when building his team, it's all about building it the right way, having young men of good character, and really emphasizing that importance of that passion and energy and that sense of purpose, and really cultivating good young men, and which is an amazing thing to see, because in NCAA it's high stakes, big money, so it's very, people might want to cut corners, but he really emphasizes that slow build. And while there, he did gain some successes of like reaching the NCAA Final Four and the Sweet 16 in 2 separate appearances. And just for perspective, that is out of 350 NCAA teams that he ended up being one of the top 4 and then one of the top 16. So throughout the book, he showcases ups and downs of coaching, navigating life. And one of the things that I like is at the end of each chapter, he distills down the messages within the chapter and into like a little cheat sheet, a scouting report, if in basketball terms, called Creating Culture. So it'll just tell you the highlights of what you should emphasize. So in the example in the chapter Competitive Reinvention, in creating culture, it's like finding a truth teller, listen to your body, tell a story, be a truth teller. Like when you've had to tell someone a hard truth, how did you let that person know that you cared, that you weren't putting him or her down? So he really emphasizes like that cultivation of goodness. Like Porter Moser himself is Catholic, played for a Jesuit university at Crichton, so it's through and through in his blood, and he really does a strong emphasis of that sense of humility and really cultivating virtue, both on and off the court, both in sport and in one's life. And I really enjoyed the book. Being a former basketball player, not NCAA Division I, that's a whole other animal. But I did really appreciate it. And again, at the time of the writing, he was the coach for Loyola University of Chicago. Now he's at the University of Oklahoma. Just if people decide to look him up and like, wait, what happened?
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. That's a little different than most of the books you talk about, in that it's a bit of a biography, an autobiography. So if people are interested in his story and not just the basketball aspect, but just good biography of a good Catholic that who brought his faith into his work. That book is called All In, Driven by Passion, Energy, and Purpose by Porter Moser, published by Loyola. And the first book you spoke about, Jermaine, is Joan of Arc by Josephine Poole, illustrated by Angela Barrett, and published by Magnificat Ignatius. Great. Okay, 2 solid books here as we approach the end of the Lenten season with Jermaine Bagnall. Thank you for this. Good
always
suggestions as always.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Keep reading, everybody.
Keep reading. Jermaine Bagnall is our book contributor. He's also the producer of the Salt and Light production, Working in Faith. You can watch that at slmedia.org and follow him at Jermaine Bagnall. Coming up in our second half hour, what happens when a pope dies, and we reconnect with singer-songwriter Kate Curran, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Salt and Light Hour Part 2. I'm Deacon Pedro. The last few weeks, with Pope Francis in hospital, had everyone asking questions about what would happen if he died. There are specific questions about this particular situation, but there are also the general questions. What does happen when a pope dies or steps down? What rituals have to take place? And then, how does a conclave work? What even is a conclave? All these questions and so many more are addressed in the new book, Conclave, The Rules for Electing the Next Pope. Written by longtime Vaticanista Javier Martinez Brocal, it is an update of the book Sede Vacante by Father José de Jesús Aguilar. To find out more and get some answers to some of our questions, earlier this week I spoke with Javier Martinez Brocal, who spoke with me from his home in Rome. Javier, welcome to the Salt and Light Hour. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
It's such a honor. Hello from Rome. Hello, everybody.
I thought maybe I should ask you, since you're very well connected, is there anything you can tell us about how the Pope is doing right now?
Well, the doctors are calm, and this is very good news. And he's doing better than in the hospital. He's starting doing some work, and let's see what happens. But his staff is calm, and so we are.
Yes, that's good to know. If his staff are calm, then we can be calm too. Javier, you have covered 2 conclaves. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. I came to Rome. I'm in Rome since 2003, and I've been working as a journalist in two conclaves. The first one with it was when John Paul II died in 2005. And
Yeah.
I mean, conclaves have all the elements for a beautiful story. I mean, the mystery on who will be the next pope, the human element of the story of the one who is elected, and also the amazing process of voting for electing the new pope. I mean, Pedro,
Hmm.
I must say that I remember with big emotions the moment of the fumatas, but also the black fumatas. When you see
The
the black
smoke.
smoke, yes, and you see that they are working in looking for a new pope, and it was very, very beautiful.
I can imagine. Um, so I know that there are a lot of rituals that have to happen when a pope dies, and I guess when he steps down. Can you tell us a little bit briefly about what needs to happen when a pope dies or resigns?
Yes, yes. I mean, in the exact moment when a pope steps down or when he dies, starts what here in the Vatican they call the sede vacante. I mean, the vacancy of the
Yeah.
apostolic see, when the see of the Bishop of Rome
Yes.
is vacant. And at this moment, the law that commands in the Vatican is the Universi Dominici Gregis, which means the Lord's whole flock. It establishes who is the one on command and what should be done to elect the pope. And for example,
Okay.
when a pope dies or steps down, the Swiss Guard protects the College of Cardinals, not anymore the pope, because the cardinals
Okay.
represent the Holy See until a new successor of the Apostle Peter is elected. And
Hmm.
and in the case, of course, when a pope dies, there are very very significant rules. I mean, the law says that the first Vatican official to intervene is the pope's physician. I mean, he must prepare such a
Mm.
report after examining the body, in which he declares the cause of death. Uh, then they prepare the remains so they can be exposed. Uh, I mean, he's the one, the first one. But the most important person during the sede vacante is the camerlengo. He's the one who should officially declare that the pope has died, and he's the one who put a seal in the pope's room and in his office to prevent that someone try to do a falsification of his decisions or someone try to take
Okay.
his document. And I must say that
Okay.
the
Okay.
last one that is very important is the master of pontifical ceremonies, who is the one who should take care of the Pope's remain and prepare the way. These are the
Okay.
very first decisions.
Yeah, of course. So now, did Pope Benedict, and I know Pope Francis also make some changes. Is there anything there that is significant?
Yes, yes, because mm, keep in mind that Benedict XVI changed the law of the conclave twice. In 2007, he
Okay.
introduces the provision that the new pope needed, no matter what, two-thirds of the vote to be elected. Uh, with John Paul II,
Okay.
in some special cases, it was enough to be elected pope, uh, the majority of the votes. Mm, half of the votes
Okay.
won. With Benedict XVI, in any
Okay.
case, the new pope should have two-thirds of the vote. Pope Francis hasn't changed the law of the conclave, but he has done some modifications on the protocol of the funeral. For example, he
Uh-huh.
has established that the death of the pontiff is verified in a chapel and not anymore in a hall, and that during the wake the remains are not in a catafalque, in a bier, but in a coffin. These are so much the changes. I mean, he hasn't do Pope Francis hasn't
Okay.
done anything special.
Yeah, okay, but he did change or give some directives as to how he wants to be
Yes.
buried or how his funeral is going to or should be conducted?
Yes, it was to me. I was doing an interview to Pope Francis, and I was asking him
Oh,
about
yes.
Yes, we were speaking about the funeral of Benedict XVI, and I wasn't prepared because he said, "Well, I must tell you something. My funeral is gonna be different because I wanna be buried in Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica in Rome.
Yes. Saint
Because
Mary Major. Yes.
yes, and Mary Major. He has a strong devotion to this icon of the Virgin Mary, the Salus Populi Romani, salvation of the people of Rome,
Hmm.
because it is the icon where uh, missionary Jesuits used to go before going to mission. They used to go to pray to that icon, and the Pope wanna be also there, wanna be buried there. For me, it was a very strong surprise. And he also has adapted the text of the funeral mass because he wants to underline that the Pope is a shepherd. He's a disciple of Christ. He's not a powerful man of this world. And so during the Mass, when they speak about the Pope, they use the titles that are like shepherd, like Bishop of Rome, and
Hmm.
not something that means power.
Hmm. Do you think that Pope Francis, if he feels that he's not able to continue before he dies, that he would resign?
I think he has no problem to resign, but he wants to protect the freedom of his successor. He's thinking in the future of the church, and he says the decision of Benedict was the correct one, but um, but
Hmm.
he feels that it's an exception to the rule of the role of the Pope. Benedict took that decision, but was an exception. He feels that if he also
Right.
takes the same decision, the exception demands a rule. Is transformed in a normal rule, and he wants to protect his successor to not to feel the necessity to step down. Then my feeling is that he wants to wait. I think the moment when the Pope will step down is if he feels that some of his collaborators are taking decision in his name without asking him. In that case,
Yeah.
he will step down. But as now, as you see, there are not no, we are not seeing special decisions in the Vatican. Mm, the number of new bishops is very short because the Pope is checking
Hmm.
them, and then no one is taking decision in the name of the Pope without the authorization of the Pope. I think he's not going to renounce us today, but it can change tomorrow.
Um, Javier, thank you very much for giving us a little bit of an insight as to what's really happening in Rome and for writing the book. It's a great resource for anyone who's interested in learning not just specifically about a conclave and when a pope dies, but in a lot of things about the church. So thank you very much for that.
Bye.
That was a conversation I had earlier this week with journalist Javier Martinez Brocal, who has been covering the Vatican since 2003. He is the author of several books, including the Pope Francis biography, El Papa de la Misericordia. His latest book is Conclave, The Rules for Electing the Next Pope, and it is available on Amazon. Here now is Kate Curran with Be Thou My Vision from her Volume 4 EP.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Though my past
listening to Kate Curran with Be Thou My Vision from her Volume 4 EP. We met Kate Curran in 2022 and learned all about her creative and unique approach to classic Christian hymns. Kate is a trumpet player, originally from Ireland, but now calls Atlanta her home, where she is a youth minister. Kate has continued recording traditional hymns, but as you have been hearing, the approach is not traditional. And so, to tell us more, I am now joined by Kate Curran. Kate, welcome back to the Salt and Light Hour. It's so good to see you.
Hi, Deacon. It's great to be back. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's good. It's good to see you, and it's good to hear that there's more music. And I
Yeah.
guess I didn't understand last time we spoke that the idea was to keep recording hymns.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So there's now a total of 12 hymns recorded, which has been a really fun project to work on.
Okay, so 4 volumes, 3 hymns per volume, and
Correct.
then maybe you might put all 12 songs into an album. Is that then the
Correct.
idea?
Yeah. The idea, well, I would love to at some point put everything onto a vinyl record for probably, I
Oh,
don't know, 10 people that want it. But yeah, I would love to put it on an album, and we would release it digitally as well. But the dream behind putting them all in one place is so that I can actually make a vinyl record.
I like the idea. So it's traditional hymns and also in a more traditional medium. Um,
Yeah.
I like that. I would get one of those vinyls. Um,
Awesome, awesome.
so what's the fascination with traditional Christian hymns?
Ooh, I think that's a great question. I feel like the lyrics are more noble. Um, there's a beauty that has been lost a little bit in modern architecture and just in the world around us. There's this minimalism that has crept into the world, and I feel like
Hmm,
there's one of the transcendentals of God is beauty, and so in our music today, I feel like there's just been this erosion of real noble lyrics and music, melodically, everything. We don't have many Beethovens and Bachs and Mozarts walking around anymore.
right.
Um, and so for me, the fascination has just been this ancient beauty that evokes in my heart something a little bit more than some of the more contemporary songs that are out there. And that's not to say there's no place for those types of music either. But for me, when I was approaching this project, I wanted to go backwards to represent something that is ever ancient and ever new.
Right. And you're not just talking about the lyrics, you're also talking is there something about the melodies as well?
Yeah, I think these are hymns that are so familiar to people, and sometimes in the debate that goes on continuously in the music world, particularly in the church, people that are pro Latin versus the Vatican II kind
Yeah.
of division that has come about. There is, I think, there's just this familiarity that some of these more traditional hymns have, despite people's preferences. They still know these. They can recall these melodies and
Hmm.
these lyrics, and so again, the idea was to represent some of these ancient treasures to a new generation of young people that are coming up that maybe are not as familiar with them, but also to the older generation, to remind them of make the nostalgia and the beauty that lies therein, and the melodies. Yes, I'm not necessarily saying that particularly. I think particularly some of the lyrics of these hymns, of Thomas Aquinas, things like that, are
Yeah.
are very beautiful, and just I could never write something as profound as
Right.
him. But and the melodies too are very beautiful. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're more noble than
Hmm.
modern melodies, but just as a whole, there's just something
Hmm.
very beautiful about some of these older hymns that I wanted to just bring to the forefront again.
Yeah. Is there also something about the tradition? I mean, you mentioned architecture earlier, and I'm wondering
Hmm.
if just in general that, I mean, you have a deep affection for the traditions of the church in
Oh,
general,
very
not
much.
just the music.
Yes.
Where does
Not
that
just
come
the music.
from?
I'm European. I think some of it is the fact that I'm from Europe. I grew up in
Yeah.
churches that were ornate and beautiful, and the
Mm,
design of churches are meant to elevate the heart and mind. You're meant to walk in and be taken by the beauty and look upwards toward
mm,
God, to the creator of all things that is good and beauty and truth itself. And so um, growing up in Europe, it definitely has given me appreciation for things that are old.
mm.
I
Yes.
love it,
Yes.
and yeah, that's definitely, and architecturally in every, in those senses as well. It's definitely plays into to an appreciation for things that have been.
But not just because they're old, but because there's a maybe strength there or a rootedness.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's remarkable to me to even to think of Notre Dame that burned
Mm-hmm.
recently in France, and
Mm-hmm.
and to think the people that built these monuments were poor. They had
Yeah.
nothing. And I struggle with that today because I see how much money it takes to build a church. The parish that I'm currently in are fundraising, and it's going to take years for us to get
Yeah.
even close to laying the foundation, let alone
Yes.
putting in things that are ornate. And it's such a tragedy, because to go back hundreds of years when they were building these ancient churches, they gave everything, what little they had, to the church, and they made
Mm-hmm.
them incredibly ornate and incredibly beautiful, because they wanted, obviously, to give glory to God, to give him the finest that they had, but also in that beauty to enrapture the heart, the human heart, to help us to pray and to look toward God. And it's incredible to me that some of that has been lost. So even in more modern churches, there's a minimalism that has crept in, and again, I'm not saying objectively that's right or
Yes.
wrong, but I personally, I like the ornate because it is regal and noble,
Yeah.
and yeah, it elevates the heart and mind to something. There's something different about this place, about this
Mm-hmm.
space, this
Yeah.
this this sanctuary, this sacred
Yeah.
ground that I'm on.
Right. It's
Right,
set up, it's set apart, which I guess is the
right,
definition of something that is holy. So when you
exactly.
when you set out to choose 12 hymns, and honestly, had you asked me, I don't know if I could have come up with 12, maybe eight. But how did you pick them?
Oh my
How did you
gosh, it's a great
choose?
question. I Some of it was very intentional. Some of it was literally 2 or 3 days before I'm booked to go to the studio, and I'm scrambling, being like,
Right,
okay, what do I do?
right.
I hope some of it was all led, or all of it was led by the Holy Spirit. But the first or sorry, the second EP, I included the first and second, sorry, I included two hymns from Thomas Aquinas. So he was in my mind very much, in terms of
Hmm.
just some of his writings are so profound. And I wanted to bring some Latin to the forefront. So in the second volume, there's O Salutaris.
Yes.
And I would have done more, but some of the measures, the meters in some of
Yeah.
these hymns are irregular. And so I wasn't able to kind of capture that the way I wanted
Hmm.
to. But um, so there was a desire to bring some Latin, and particularly Thomas Aquinas. I wanted to. I just think his Eucharistic hymn was
Yes.
of Godhead here in hiding was incredibly beautiful. So they
Hmm.
were kind of in my mind. I wanted to honor Mary, Our Lady. So in volume 3, there was Hail Queen of Heaven enthroned above. I did a
Hmm.
song to her, and then the others were very much just things, again, that I've heard in church over in at different moments, different seasons. I heard the voice of Jesus. I don't think I heard that one growing up, but I heard it in at mass one day when I was in
Okay.
at Sunday mass. I loved the melody, and I wanted to play around with the rhythm and
Yeah.
just make it different. And the same with the King of Love, my Shepherd. Again, some of these hymns are just the lyrics are so moving. And so, yeah, these are just hymns that over the years have struck a chord with me in some capacity. And so
Hmm.
some of them were picked, as I said, 2 days before going to the
Yes.
studio. Some of them were kind of on my heart for a while, but
Yeah. Were
they
there
all
any
came about.
Were there any that you did not know growing up that were new? I mean, you just mentioned the one that you heard at Mass once, but were there others that you thought,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
or
never heard of Now Thank We All Are God. I can't even remember. Again,
oh,
that's one that I recently, within the last 3 years maybe.
okay,
When I began the project, I didn't even know that hymn. Low Upon the Altar Lies, that's up from the third volume. Again, that was one
yeah,
I had never heard. Because a big focus
okay,
of some of all of these projects as well has been Eucharistic. I wanted to
okay,
record things that were Eucharistic and had that theme throughout it. So there's a couple of tracks on each one that kind of is centered around the Eucharist. So that was another
hmm
one that I had never heard of. Again, I can't even remember where I discovered it, but I did, and I thought it was beautiful. So that's kind of like a lullaby
yeah,
style that I did off the third
that's beautiful.
volume. So yeah, there was definitely yeah.
I'm glad you included Now Thank We All Are God because I can never get the title. I always want to say Now We Thank, like it's like whoever came up with that title didn't know grammar. Now we thank all, like it
Right.
just doesn't work. But Now Thank We All Are. So now I'll finally will be able to get the title
You
right.
got it now.
Um, Kate, thank you so much. It's good to connect. Thank you
You're
that
so
we were able to
welcome.
connect finally. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that even though you set out to do 12, you could continue doing volume 5 and volume 6 and volume 7, and maybe
Yeah.
we can discover some other hymns that we didn't know existed
Yeah.
as I told you last time, as you Kate Curranize them and give them your own spin.
Yeah, that's the hope. I left it open ended so we can continue. If the Holy Spirit decides that that's something He'd like to
That's
see happen,
great.
I'm all here for it.
That's great. Well,
Brilliant.
thank you for doing that and for telling us a little bit about it today, Kate. Take care.
Yeah, you're so welcome. God bless.
You can learn more about Kate Curran at her website, katecurranmusic.net, and it's Kate with a K and Curran, Curran, katecurranmusic.net. I'll put a link on our site so you can find it easily, and you can also find her music wherever you stream your music. If you missed part of this interview, you can head on over to our website, slmedia.org/podcast. That's where we archive all our programs. Here now is Kate Curran with Now Thank We All Are God from her Volume 4 EP.
Now thank we all our God with heart and hands and voices, who wondrous things has done, in whom His world rejoices, who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today. Oh, may this bounteous God through all our life be near us with ever joyful hearts and blessed peace to cheer us, to keep us in His grace and guide us when perplexed, and free us from all ills of this world in the next.
We're listening to Kate Curran with Now Thank We All Are God from her Volume 4 EP, and that will take us to the end of the program today. You can listen to the full show on our website, slmedia.org, or on the Salt and Light Plus app, SL Plus, or you can subscribe to the podcast edition of the Salt and Light Hour anywhere you get your podcasts, and that way you can get the show delivered right to your device. Join us next week to listen to some of the conversations I had while in Dallas, Texas during the Chosen world premiere screening for season 5. We'll feature interviews with some of the cast members, including Jonathan Rumi. So I hope you can join me next week. This week, let's continue praying. Let's pray for peace in Ukraine and peace in the Holy Land and in so many places where there is conflict. Let's also pray for baptism godparents and confirmation sponsors. Let's pray for basketball players and coaches, or maybe let's pray for all athletes. And also those who, like Joan of Arc, are persecuted, ostracized, and even martyred. Let's pray for the health of Pope Francis, that he may continue to have the strength to lead the Church according to God's will. And I pray that you have a continued Lent that is full of blessings. I'm Deacon Pedro, and this has been the Salt and Light Hour.